Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for our cash tag segment. For that, let's bring in Andy Swan. He's a co-founder at LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Thank you. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you. Happy Monday and happy days for ON investors. ON Holdings done pretty well, up about another 25% so far this year, just below highs. Andy, when you guys look at this company, I always think about it as a premium type athletic wear company, right? Mostly focused on shoes, but they're expanding their footprint there, direct to consumer, but they're also expanding their footprint across retail. I saw them in Nordstrom and some other stores now, but they don't discount at all, and they doesn't seem like they need to, right? Do you guys have data that backs up the moves for the shares?
Yeah, I think the most important data point that LikeFolio has for this company is the consumer happiness level. This is one of the most happy consumer bases, I would say thrilled consumer bases in the entire LikeFolio universe in terms of how people perceive this brand, with an 80% happiness rating, absolutely dominating all of its peers. I think that the company's done a very good job of doing two things at once. That's increasing its brand awareness and increasing its brand perception, both at the same time. So more and more people are aware of the ON brand, and they are extremely happy with the products that they buy. And that's a great combination for a company that's in growth mode, which this one clearly is. On the web visit side, you mentioned they do have a strong direct-to-consumer channel. It's a primary channel of those, although they're expanding. We see web visits climbing 40% plus year over year. We think that's a phenomenal move. They had an exceptionally good holiday season that I think they will be reporting on. Our only concern here is that you can see kind of at the end of that chart, that acceleration rate, that growth rate has definitely slowed in the last 30 days or so. And so I think that could be the one asterisk that we have to put on a positive outlook for this company is the consumer starting to tighten up? Is that starting to impact this company's direct sales? I think it possibly is. It's at least impacting an exceptional growth rate and maybe making it just a very good growth rate. And so it'd be very interesting to see what the company offers in terms of guidance, because we're really confident that the numbers that they post for the reported quarter are going to be phenomenal, and it's going to be more about the outlook from here that could spook the market a little bit tomorrow.
Yeah, well said, Andy. And I think you said 40% year-over-year growth for the web visits. That's probably one of your better tracking indicators for purchase intent as well. They're only looking for like 23% or so revenue growth. So, I mean, 1 in 2 of those consumers is buying. Things are looking pretty good in terms of hitting those numbers. Also, one thing I want to pick your brain on, Andy, they're still primarily obviously just making their revenue off of shoes. How important is that? I know that they're trying to expand into apparel, but I would have to think, we do a Venn diagram of those who shop at somewhere like Lululemon and those who have these shoes, there might be a huge overlap. So it does seem like there could be some synergy where that very loyal kind of athleisure established brand consumer maybe didn't enjoy the Lululemon footwear releases, might love something like ON, or I saw you had Hoka on there as well, is probably another name that you're watching.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's a lot of history of companies trying to go from, apparel to footwear or footwear to apparel. And, quite frankly, it's really hard to think of anybody that did it extremely well other than Nike. You look at what Under Armour did, that turned out to be a little bit of a disaster. It's a really tough transition to make. And so I think there's going to continue to be a lot of questions about that strategy of expansion. I think everybody's excited about their expansion of footwear into Asia. I think that there's still a considerable amount of growth that they can tackle just in the footwear space. But if you were going to bet on one company to be able to bridge that divide, I think ON Holdings has a very good chance because, again, of its premium brand perception and extremely high consumer happiness. It tells me they have loyal customers that really love the product and the brand, and the fact that they never discount. I think gives Wall Street a lot of confidence that what they're seeing is real sales. It's not, stuffing the channel with sales really quickly. This is a brand that's committed to the long term, and I think that's really starting to pay off.
Andy, I kind of wanted to focus that because they started out as a shoe company. These were some runners that started. It's a Swiss company at this point, but the pivot that they've done into apparel, right? And you mentioned that it's going head to head with Lululemon, I think, on their apparel moving forward. Does that shoe part, because Lululemon's failed at shoes, Under Armour failed at shoes, Nike's done a pretty good job, but this is a premium product. Is that they're in where, hey, we started out as a shoe company, now we're expanding, and now you've got brand awareness and that luxury lifestyle that a lot of people like to overpay for, and this seems to be right in that mode. Is that making it easier for them?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think when you think about, footwear and apparel, what people may not realize is that the footwear side of it is much more difficult to get right. It's much more difficult to build shoes, to manufacture shoes that people like from an aesthetic standpoint and that perform well from a sports standpoint. And I think that On Holdings having a couple marathon winners now wearing their shoes, they've proven the versatility of the shoes, the performance of the shoes, in addition to the look and the brand that they've built. And so moving that into apparel is a much easier task than the reverse. And so I think this is the type of company that can pull it off. We're yet to see it really take off. I also think that there's just an outside shot that this is a company that may be an acquisition target for a company like Lululemon. Not something that I would speculate on as a reason to buy the shares, but it's always kind of there in the back of your mind of, if this stock gets a significant pullback, I do think that there are potential buyers out there that might want to scoop it up after what we've seen them execute over the last year or two.
You would compare this company more in sort of how it's approached its growth strategy more to Lulu than, let's say, Nike. It always seemed like Nike kind of bought its way in through the superstars, the Michael Jordans, the Tiger Woods of the world, where Lulu was very grassroots, almost entirely direct-to-consumer, never discounting unless they basically had excess inventory. And it seems like a lot of those things are overlapping with On. Well, we know the street loves Lulu. No reason they can't love On Holdings too.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think this is still a very solid growth story in a company that has an exceptional consumer base that is growing and that loves the brand and that loves pretty much every product that they put out. So it's really just a matter of, if the stock gets ahead of itself a little bit. This is one that I put on my radar, especially into an earnings event like this. We're cautiously optimistic going into this earnings event. I think there is some fear that there could be a guidance issue, and if so, that could pull the stock back a little bit. But that's the type of situation where I want to be a buyer. And so, I'll leave it to you guys to figure out how we play this. But from a long-term perspective, I think On Holdings is a phenomenal addition to a portfolio, especially on pullbacks due to short-term concerns.
All right, great stuff, great data as always, Andy. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, that's Andy Swan, co-founder at LikeFolio, breaking down the data for us here on Holdings. Alex, the stock's